Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have another pen here, and this is a pen from a company, a fairly new company called Leonardo Officina Italiana. Now this is a pen, it comes in a somewhat nice box. It is a cardboard box though, and this is the MomentZero Positano door, and this is basically a blue resin pen. Now, if I lift the box, you'll see that you have a made in Italy there, and it just says Italian original quality, worked by hand from solid bar, guaranteed for life against any manufacturing defects. And then you have, I guess really, it's more of a brochure. Leonardo Officina Italiana MomentoZero, made in Italy. And this is basically the certificate of authenticity, and it just goes on to say MomentZero collection, a new beginning, positivity and desire to start with a great enthusiasm driven by passion and experience, 40 years for writing instruments, a collection inspired by the Italian vintage known in the world, well balanced in size and in metal details. Now, I said this is a new company, or fairly new company, but they have 40 years experience, and I'll tell you why after I just show you a few of these pictures. So they do a number of ranges. They do the lower end range, which is the resin pens, which I have here today, and then they do the slightly higher end pens, which are more celluloid. And you'll see here some of the limited edition celluloid pens, the LEs or limited edition pens, and these will have gold nibs on them. Now the lower end resin pens are just basically numbered editions, and so they're not limited in quantity, but so this one here is number 129 that I have, and it's the blue resin. So let me show you the pen here. But first off, the brochure there actually mentioned that they have 40 years experience. So the team behind the Leonardo Officina Italiana pen range are basically ex Delta workers. It's a father and son business. The father was one of the co-founders of Delta, which is now, as I understand it, gone under. So they are now working as a father-son business. They have also made pens for Armando Simoni Club, the Bologna Extra Arcos, the Ogiva Tribute. So they have actually machined those pens and built those pens by hand. And they have now started their own range of pens called the MomentZero. So that's why they have 40 years experience in terms of building and making and machining pens, because they've been around for quite some time with Delta, and then in the last couple of years they've been doing more work with Armando Simoni Club, and now they've started their own range of pens. So I think it's great that they've decided to go it alone and create their own brand. And so there's a number of different range of pens, as I mentioned. That you have these resin pens, and then you have the celluloid pens. So these resin pens come in around about 150 euros, 140 UK pounds, just under 200 US dollars. And they come with a steel nib. I think that price point is pretty good. I think if you look, say, at an Edison pen, you're looking around about that price range for a steel nib. So I think that's quite good. Now, they also have the more limited edition range pens in celluloid with, I believe, 14 karat gold nib for around about 650 euros, probably around about 550, 600 pound, and probably about 800 US dollars or thereabouts. So these pens I have here. So those celluloid ones are basically limited edition to a run of 10 or 15 per model. These ones are not limited edition. These are the resin versions of the pens. So these they are numbered, but I don't know how many we will see of these. So I guess it's very similar to like the Armando Simone clubs, like the Bologna Extras, where they are numbered pens, but not a limited edition. So it's kind of a special edition that each pen is numbered, but not limited as such, or highly limited. So let me show you this pen in all its glory. So this is the blue version of the resin, and I really do like this material. So you can see here it has this wonderful swirl in the resin. Now the cap is more darker than the barrel or the body of the pen. It has very similar, if we look at the cap, it has a very similar pointed cap to what the Armando Simone Club Bologna Extras have. It also has the same roller style clip here, so you can actually see here that it will roll, but it is a lovely material, but it is resin, it's not celluloid, so you have to bear that in mind. It's also a very light pen as well, so but that material, it's almost like an oil painting, and I really do like that material. Now you have a couple of cap bands here that you can see, and then another one at the end here, and then the body tapers down slightly to another ring here, and then it comes to the end cap, which again is pointed. Now if I unscrew the pen, you'll see here a lovely stamped Leonardo, and this is a like a gold coloured or gold plated nib, very highly polished. It has the Leonardo logo there. This has a broad nib. Now I actually got two versions of this pen. I got this in this blue finish and in the horn finish, and I really do like both. I think I prefer the blue one slightly more, because I think it just shows off the pattern a lot more. So this is a broad nib, and then in terms of threads, like you have a section that tapers down quite a bit here, and then flares out slightly. So it's a very slight hourglass, and then you have threads. Now these threads are very shallow. They're not sharp in any way, shape or form. There's a slight step down here from the body onto the section there. Now this is a cartridge converter pen, so if I unscrew this, I will show you it has a standard international converter, and it is branded Leonardo. So now I have this pen inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki at the moment. I've tried a number of different inks in here so far. It's got quite long threads there, screwing up, but I don't have a problem with that in terms of screwing the body back on. I prefer to have longer threads, but this pen is really nice. It's very lightweight because it is resin. If I show you in terms of size, this pen isn't a bad size. Now you can post the pen, and it posts quite deeply and securely, and it's not back weighted in any way, shape or form. So I don't know, like I probably would maybe post this, but I don't need to, because it's still of a fair length that I could probably get away with not needing to post it. But it is a really nice pen. Now there's a number of things that I would sort of mention about here. The pen is very highly polished. However, I don't know if you can see this, but it's very unpolished on the inner cap. Now, almost dusty looking. I don't know if you can see, if the light will pick this up. There you go. Maybe you can see it there a little bit. So that to me isn't a major issue. The biggest issue I have is with the nib. Now, this nib writes very wet, very lovely, and I really do like how it writes. But the problem that I have with this nib is that it has a severe case of baby's bottom on a broad nib. Now, I've spoken to a number of other people that have got Leonardo steel nib pens as well. They have said on the broader nibs that they too have had baby's bottom as well. Now, that is fixable. You can take the nib to micromesh. If you have experience in doing that, you can micromesh the nib. Now, I used 8000 grit, and I was able to smooth the nib out and improve it massively. Now, so there's really sort of two issues I find here with this nib. The first is because it has baby's bottom, it hard starts every time you try to write with it on a downstroke. The ink will start within about a second, and it will start flowing, and it won't have a problem until you take the pen off the paper and then you go to write with it again. Now, to the other issue that I will have is that the nib runs dry even if you have it uncapped for 5 seconds or more. And I think that is partially down to the baby's bottom on the nib. I think it's been compounded by that. So I took 8000 micromesh grit to the nib, and I didn't want to do too much sanding on the nib. Now obviously I'm voiding the warranty, and I don't expect Leonardo to do anything with these pens after I've done that. So that's just a disclaimer out of the box. Now, I could have sent these back, I could have asked them to fix the nib, or I could have taken it to a Nibmeister, which would also void the warranty as well. But I decided, because I have the experience, I would do this myself. So, literally doing around half a dozen downstrokes, half a dozen cross strokes, horizontal strokes, and then probably about a dozen figure of eights. This improved the nib massively. It still hard starts, I won't lie, but it's taken, like, the hard starting, it's reduced it to a point where it doesn't bother me so much, or if not at all. Now, in terms of ink drying out, now I can leave the pen uncapped, or I can leave the pen capped for minutes or hours at a time and not have a single problem with the ink drying up on the nib. So I think taking it down to 8000 grit has helped. Now, I tried to smooth the nib out a little bit more, back to 12,000 grit, and the problem came back. So this pen does still have baby's bottom on it. I didn't want to completely remove the baby's bottom, and I'll show you why. Because the amount of tipping that is on this nib, if you can see there isn't a huge amount of tipping. So I don't want to grind that tipping down to the point where there's no tipping. So I then took it back to 8000 grit, and it's again a lot better. So in terms of the smoothness out of the box, I would say it was probably around 99% glassy smooth of a nib. It is now, taking it down to 8000 grit, probably 89% glassy smooth. So I'm happy with how the nib writes now. But I just need to let you know that if you have a more broader nib on these pens, you may find that they are over polished to the point that they do have baby's bottom. So I really, really do like this pen. Have I fixed the baby's bottom on it? Yes. Like, are you going to get baby's bottom on your version of the pen? I can't answer that. I believe these may be Joro nibs, and I'll show you the reason why I think they may be, is if I uncap, and I'll show you another Joro nib side by side, and I think like the the overall shape of the tines and the way that they are shaped and they curve in kind of look like it's a Jovo nib to me. I may be wrong. It may be a Bock nib or some other nib. Now I don't know whether or not these nibs are being over polished at the factory, or if Leonardo are over polishing these nibs. Now I've heard from other people that the medium nibs have not had hard starting, but the broader nibs do. So I have two broad nibs, and both of them have baby's bottom and have hard starts on them. So like, it's only two nibs, so it may not be a widespread problem, but other people have also commented that they've had the same problem. So this is just something to bear in mind. This is a decision that you need to make. Like, I think these pens are really, really good pens. I really like the wetness of the nibs. The only issue that I have is with the hard starting. And I've had pens that have hard started before that have been a lot more expensive than this. I have had pens that are more cheaper that have hard started as well. So I think it's just one of those things that if a nib is too over polished, you will get baby's bottom, and it will have ink starvation getting to the tip of the nib, and that will cause baby's bottom. So other than that, I really, really do like this pen. So I have almost fixed this with this pen, but like, is this something that you would find acceptable in a pen? That's really down to you. Like, I'm keeping these pens. I paid the full retail price for these pens. I'm not looking for any money back. I'm not looking to bash Leonardo. I'm just really making the point that you may have this problem on your nibs, and if this is a problem that you do not like on nibs, if you do not like baby's bottom or hard starting, then that has to be a decision that you need to weigh into whether or not you want to purchase these pens or not. But for me, I absolutely love this pen. It is a really, really good pen. I think once you get away from the baby's bottom part of it, the pen writes flawlessly. It's a very smooth nib. It's a very wet nib. I really, really do like this. So it's a real difficult decision. I didn't want to not tell you about the baby's bottom experience that I've had on two nibs here, because at that point you're going to go and buy the pen and you're going to come back and say, oh yeah, but my pen has baby's bottom on it. So I just wanted to be completely open and honest. If Leonardo are actually smoothing these nibs out themselves and creating the baby's bottom, I do hope that in future nibs, as production moves on, they can improve it so that they don't have nibs with baby's bottoms on it. If it's being done at the factory by the nib manufacturer, then I hope that they can fix that, or at the very least Leonardo can fix it by taking some coarser micro mesh to the nibs to ensure that the nibs don't have baby's bottom. But in terms of this pen, I absolutely love it. So I think let's do some size checks. So this pen is around about 140 millimeters in length, and the cap itself comes down to here. So the cap is around about, I want to say, about 64 millimeters in length. Now, the body length to the tip of the tines, you are looking around 127 millimeters. So it's a little bit less than I guess probably an oversized pen, but I think it's still a pretty good size to me. I might post this pen in future. I might not. I'm not typically a poster for pens, but I guess I'll just see how well I like it posted versus unposted. So let's just do a weight check. So just out of the way. So in terms of weight, we are looking at just under 26.5 grams, fully inked. The cap itself is just under 8 grams, and then the pen itself is just under 17 grams. So it is quite a lightweight pen. So let's do a comparison with some other pens. So left to right, we have a TWSBI Mini AL. We have a Pelikan M600 turquoise white. We have a Pelikan M800 Royal Gold Raden. We have a Conway Stewart Series 100. We have the Leonardo in the blue resin. We have the Edison Collier. We have a TWSBI Diamond 580 AL. We have a Classic Pens LM1, a Classic Pens LB5, and a Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. So let's do a writing sample. So this is the Leonardo Officina Italiana, so a little bit of a mouthful, and this is the blue resin in a broad steel nib. Now, the ink is Pilot Aroshizuku Konpeki. Now, in terms of the nib itself, it is a broad nib, and you can see here that I started to get a bit of hard start on that one, and literally it's only been about 4 or 5 seconds. So now if I try to push a little bit harder, you'll see there's a little bit more line variation. Now, as I said, these hard startings will occur more so on the downstrokes, which is the baby's bottom. So this is just something just to bear in mind with this nib. Now it's just sort of like been 5 seconds, and there you go. Like it's starting to hard start again. The ink will then start up, and it will actually start quite nicely. But the initial downstroke will be a problem. So in terms of wetness, this is a fairly wet pen, but it's not overly wet. So I do like the wetness. It does feel quite wet. It's nowhere near a fire hose of a nib, but it can actually, depending on the ink that you put in here, can actually write a little bit wetter than this. Konpeki, I find, is a fairly lubricated ink. It's not an overly wet ink, but so now again, like the nib, I've had it out just for probably 20 or so seconds, and you'll see here that is the hard start again, and this is the baby's bottom that I'm experiencing with these nibs. So like, I have improved this a lot more, but it's still, there you go, it's still happening. So this is just to bear in mind that you will have this problem with, or at least I have had this problem with 2 nibs, and I know of other people that have had similar problems. So just bear this in mind if you are going to pull the trigger on these pens, that you may need to work on the nib to stop the hard start. And there you go. That's a little bit more severe hard starting, where like literally I went from here to here before it would start writing. So that in itself is a more severe baby's bottom there, that it's just not writing at all. So bear this in mind if you're going to purchase this pen. This is, unfortunately, it is a very, very nice pen. I really do like it. I just do not like the baby's bottom that is on this nib, and I really hope that Leonardo can fix this in the future. If they can, I think this will make a beautiful pen. I'm going to work on this nib a little bit more because I do feel that it needs more work on it. So, but other than that, it's a lovely pen. Would I recommend this pen? I think if it didn't have the baby's bottom on it, as I understand it, the fines and the medium nibs, as I understand it, do not have the baby's bottom on them. They're not as over polished. So if you're picking up it in a fine medium and there's no baby's bottom, then yes, I definitely recommend this. I think the boards are just too over polished, and that's creating baby's bottom. So that has to be your decision at the end of the day. But I do like the material, and thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.